You know the drill, right? Every year, it's the same thing. Bright red hearts, boxes of chocolate, bouquets of flowers. It's Valentine's Day, that one time of year we all agree to just say, I love you. But have you ever really stopped to wonder about it?
I mean, why this specific day? Is this whole thing just a modern invention by greeting card companies? Or is there something, I don't know, something older and deeper going on here? Well, the real story is so much more interesting. It's like a mystery that's just begging to be solved.
So let's get into it. To find the real answer, we've got to go back in time. We're going to follow this incredible trail of clues that piece by piece built the holiday we celebrate today.
Okay, first thing to know is that this day didn't just pop up overnight. Not at all. It was built up over centuries, layer by layer, with each period in history adding its own unique twist to the story.
Our first clue takes us way, way back to a time before Valentine's Day was even a thought. Picture this, we're in ancient Rome, about 2,000 years ago, and the people are getting ready for a festival that was, let's just say, anything but hearts and flowers.
It was called Lupercalia, and yeah, it was held right in the middle of February. It was this ancient and frankly kind of wild party all about fertility, the ability to create new life. They were hoping for good harvests and healthy families,
and the rituals themselves were, well, unique is one word for it. Priests would kick things off in a sacred cave. After that, young men would literally run through the streets, gently tapping women with leather strips, a practice they believed would help them have children. And get this, there was even a kind of lottery where men would draw a woman's name from a jar to be paired up with for the festival. So yeah, definitely a far cry from a quiet romantic dinner, right? Lupercalia was public, loud, maybe a little chaotic. It was all about the community's future, not one-on-one affection. But, and this is the key, even way back then, you can see the first tiny seeds of our modern holiday, a celebration in mid-February, and this idea of pairing people together. Okay, so how on earth did we get from that wild festival to a day named after a Christian saint? Good question. And for that, we need our second clue, the story of a man who would become a legend of love and defiance. The most famous story goes like this. There was a priest named Valentine living under the rule of Emperor Claudius II. Now, this emperor had a strict law. Young men were banned from getting married. His logic was that single men make better soldiers. But Valentine, he thought this was totally unjust, so he defied the emperor and started performing weddings in secret for young couples. Of course, he was eventually found out, arrested, and thrown in jail. And this is where a phrase we all still use today comes from. The legend says that while he was in prison, Valentine became friends with the jailer's daughter. Right before he was executed, he wrote her a final note, and he signed it, "From your Valentine." He became a martyr, a hero who died for what he believed in. He died for love. So how did this martyr story connect to a mid-February festival? Well, a couple of centuries later, the early Christian church made a very, very smart move. To get people to stop celebrating the pagan festival of Lupercalia, Pope Gelasius simply declared February 14th to be Saint Valentine's Day. He basically co-opted the date but gave it a brand new, more serious meaning, a day to honor a martyr, not a day for wild rituals. So for hundreds of years, February 14th was a pretty quiet religious day. But, the human heart always finds a way to celebrate joy. And it would take some famous poets to shift the day's meaning once again, this time toward romance. The big turning point came from the famous English poet Geoffrey Chaucer. In one of his poems, he casually mentioned that mid-February is when birds choose their partners for the year. This one romantic idea was incredibly powerful. It connected the religious day of Saint Valentine with the natural world of love. It didn't take long for that idea to catch on. People started writing their own love notes. And this one right here, it's the oldest one we know of, written way back in 1415 by Charles, the Duke of Orleans. He was actually a prisoner in the Tower of London, and he wrote a poem to his wife, calling her his sweet Valentine. He used the saint's name to express his own deep feelings. And that right there was the beginning of the Valentine's card tradition. For centuries, Valentines were handmade, personal things, like little whispers on paper. But our fourth and final clue shows how a huge technological shift turned this small, personal tradition into a massive industry. In the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution changed absolutely everything. New printing machines meant cards could be mass-produced. Over in America, a savvy businesswoman named Esther Howland started making these beautiful, fancy cards with lace and ribbons, and she became known as the mother of the American Valentine. At the same time, postal services got way cheaper, which meant that suddenly everyone, not just the wealthy, could afford to send a Valentine. So, after piecing together all the clues, from pagan rituals to a rebel priest, from romantic poets to savvy entrepreneurs, we finally arrive at the holiday we celebrate today, which is really just a complex mix of its entire history.
And the holiday is still evolving. It's gone global and taken on all kinds of new shapes. In Japan, women give men chocolate on February 14th, and then the men return the favor a month later on something called White Day. And more recently, you've probably heard of Galentine's Day, a time to celebrate female friendships. It just shows that the holiday is expanding way beyond just romance.
So when you look at Valentine's Day today, its DNA is this perfect mashup of all these different parts. You've got the timing, which comes from its ancient pagan roots. You have the name and that heroic story from the saints' legend. You've got the romantic feeling, thanks to the poets. And of course, the massive scale of it all comes from modern business.
And all of that brings us to the final question. After all this time, after all these transformations, from a wild festival to a commercial giant, why does this day last? Why does it stick around? I think the answer is actually pretty simple. The world changes, but the human heart doesn't really change. Life gets busy and complicated, and this day, it gives us a reason, maybe even permission, to just pause and acknowledge the people who really matter to us. It's a reminder to be grateful for our connections. So, the next time you see a red heart, remember the brave priest, the romantic poets, and the long, winding road this day has traveled to get to us. The story isn't over. We're all a part of it now. Which leaves just one final thought. What does celebrating connection look like in your story?